Welcome to Real Estate Success DFW, the podcast where top producing agents from Dallas-Fort Worth come together to share their stories and strategies behind their success. I'm Shaune Corbett, your host, and with over 300 million sold in the local real estate market and the honor of being best at the multiple times, I know what it takes to make it in this market. Each episode, we're going to dive into the world of real estate, learning from the very best in the industry. If you're ready to level up your game, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hey everyone, Shaune Corbett, Real Estate Success DFW. I have got a celebrity on the call this time. His name is Keith Anderson. Hey Keith, how are you, man?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
So Keith Anderson is a CEO and co-founder of a group called Space. It's going to be hard to kind of quantify and explain this, but I think we're going to be able to get through it. His co-founding partner is Austin Zebek, and he is a big influencer on the podcast space, interviewing agents, interviewing high-level people. So his partner has really hit successful on the front end. Keith has done a whole lot of systems on the back end and really helping grow this particular space across multiple areas. So we're going to dive in a little bit into that. I want to kind of understand the challenges and hurdles he's dealing with. And one of the things that's going to be really cool with our conversation today is a lot of us are looking at brick-and-mortar brokerages, and we're also looking at cloud-based brokerages. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the future looks like and where things are going, and then things we have problems with. What are the opportunities and threats associated with the cloud-based business? So let's start a little bit of background. I want to put some space here. I want to make sure we understand this. So Keith, how long have you been in real estate?
Just about 8 years, actually.
Okay. And you are really heavy on the production side of things. Is that the way I understand it? Like actually transaction side, or you just really focused on systems?
Yeah, so at this point, I haven't sold real estate myself in probably about 6 years, right? So primarily all focused on the residential side. And yeah, I personally don't sell any units of business anymore, or haven't for a while. We've kind of made that threshold reach of getting the team to a level where I would never have to sell again.
I remember being in the space because I was a broker owner for years, and I know you have to have a certain number of agents just to get the broker out of production, right? And we used to think the number was somewhere around 40 agents or so, just to reach a point where if I'm running a small boutique office and I don't want to be selling anymore, I just want to primarily run and manage, it was somewhere around 40 agents. So I know you're well past that. You guys have one of the largest teams in the Phoenix, Arizona space. Is that the case?
Yeah.
Even Arizona in general.
Yeah. So we have 175 agents now here just in the Phoenix metro. And now we've obviously sprawled out past that at this point. But yeah, we have a pretty big operation here in the metro.
So you're there in that space. Have you grown into other spaces yet?
Yeah. So we are in San Diego, California. We have a good sized team there of about 25 and growing. We have a team in the Vero Beach, Florida coastline. So from Treasure Coast and the Space Coast, which is interesting to be in that marketplace. And then we also have teams in both Beaumont, Port Arthur, and Houston, Texas. So we have 4 other marketplaces and metros and growing at scale. Texas has been a big growth platform for us as we continue to build and add on to what we're doing. So soon to be Dallas here very, very soon, which I know we'll touch on and we'll chat more about.
Sure.
Some of the other, Texas marketplaces. So San Antonio, Austin, and honestly, almost every metro larger than about 200,000 people are our target markets for us to enter into.
Okay. And obviously you mentioned Dallas. Yeah, I'm here, Dallas-Fort Worth. That's my specialty. I've done this for a long time. I've sold a lot of houses here, and I have a referral group and I've had teams. And I know that may be something you and I talk about. There might be an opportunity where I can either help or be a part of some of that expansion if that's something that comes up. I'm always open to opportunities, just like I'm sure you are as well. So in the expansion, you said 200,000. Why is that a particularly special number? Is that you just need enough transaction count in order to build a base of agents?
Yeah. It's also primarily agent count, right? So our model is very much based on the amount of agents and how we can help agents continue to thrive and build their business. And if we're below about that 200,000 population, is kind of that break even where now we have to capture way more market share than what the formula necessarily would. And with a smaller metro like that. Usually price points are a little bit lower or a little bit tighter. There's more rural situations where it's a little different than what your typical metro would look like. And there isn't as many agents to essentially flourish a large producing scalable team, right? So we run huge, heavy systems with the team. The smaller the metro gets, the harder it is to run that size of a team at scale.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that. And this was good because you and I had an off recording conversation about what the future of real estate and where it came from, right? So what's some of the industry problems that we're seeing in the real estate brokerage space, right? So that's a real big topic. What's some things that you're seeing that's created problems for growth, or why you're seeing this new model as a solution to what the problems are?
Well, I think in order to truly understand and digest what's happened over the last decade to 20 years, you have to understand where real estate started and where it's ended up today, right? So real estate brokerages were the threshold of everything, right? Like you see companies like Remax and companies like Keller Williams that have been around for quite a while now, and they've been this brick and mortar type box, right? Like they've had office locations and culture and vibe, and they've created this atmosphere of, I want to go work for this company. Like this brand, this culture is where I want to be. And so for the longest time, that's what it was. And what happened is brokerages started to realize the margins that they were operating within in an ever-changing marketplace. As the internet age really started to take over real estate as a whole, people weren't going to the office to look through a telephone book of listings that was updated every week that was sent. Like that was a thing for quite a while, right? Like they were faxing paperwork like this. It seems for me now like this is years and years and like a lifetime ago, but it's crazy how quickly the real estate market has adapted to this new, economy of scale of what the industry is now. And so culture was a big thing for these real estate brokerages as time went on. And what happened is the margins kept getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed for brokerages, and the profitability index wasn't there, right? So what they decided to do was, okay, well, if we're getting squeezed, well, let's go lean on our actual income revenue stream, and let's go wider and deeper and have way less expenses. Hence the emergence of a lot of these cloud-based brokerages. But even the brick and mortar brokerages also lessened a lot of the stuff that they were offering, right? It got to a point where brokerages became a place where you just hung your license and you had to go out and sell real estate, right? Like you see the HomeSmart model and you see some of these independent 100% shop brokerages where they're taking flat fees per file. And the goal really is here, you can now legally sell real estate because you work for a brokerage. That's the state requirement. Go make your business. Go do the best you can. And what happened is now agents started to struggle in that mid-stop gap, right? Hence the emergence of teams. So teams came in to the marketplace because there was a gap in our industry where brokerages that used to create culture shifted into being really lean transactionally and tried to live in that space, right? And so teams came in, teams started to provide everything that brokerages stopped providing. And it created this atmosphere where there were team operations creating culture. And then there were still individual agents that could care less about culture or could care less about some of the stuff. It was purely just they ran their business and they were individuals and they were thriving. And that was okay too. So it created this atmosphere. There was a mixed bag of all of these operations. And what ends up happening is the brokerages that didn't adapt to that change, right? Where they still were trying to figure out culture at a national level, but while also running a brokerage operation, they're getting squeezed out as we speak because these lean cloud-based brokerages, regardless of which one, you can see all of them thriving in this newer marketplace. They were able to go really low level of expenses, provide a lot of kickbacks or opportunity at revenue in many, many different ways, and not have the brick and mortar concept that weighted them down the same way, creating that thriving box that we see today. So what that's done is that's put massive pressure on a lot of these older brokerages at scale. Hence the Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker, Realty One, Century 20, like all of these older brokerages, Remax, they've all operated in the older way, and they've been slowly trying to transition while some of these newer cloud-based brokerages and more innovative new brokerages have just kind of hit the ground running with the current model that is presently widely accepted. And so that's created what we're looking at as a massive consolidation of our industry. It's just going to shift and continue to shift. If everybody looked at their individual market, including Dallas, I'm sure, and even my market massively. We're seeing brokerages be bought. We're seeing brokerages go out of business, go bankrupt, get acquired. A lot of these mid-level regional brokers, independent shops, independent brokerages in a different marketplace, they can't make the margins work to compete with these big brokerages at scale. And we've predicted this for quite a while. The market is going to continue to compress. And what's going to happen is a lot of these independent brokerages are going to shift into some of these bigger ones over time, naturally, because they can't provide as much value for the same amount of cost as these bigger boxes are. So agents are they're going to look at a brokerage as a commodity, not necessarily a service at a certain point, right? Most of the brokerages all offer the same thing or a little bit different tweaks to the model and here and there. But the general understanding of what a brokerage is widely the same. And so as agents look at the brokerage space as a commodity, they're going to choose the most bang for your buck at a certain point in time, because they realize that at the end of the day, it's not the brokerage brand that sells real estate, it's the agent. So they're going to look for the best bang for their dollar, and they're going to go and put their hat there. And so that's why
you got a whole lot of stuff. Let's cover a little bit of this stuff, because you got some really good nuggets, and I think it's valuable, right? So when the big Brock, so 50% of their costs on a big box brokerage, that, and I think we all predict they're going to go away. There are still people there. They're going to hang on till it dies, all the way to the very end. They're going to do their 10, 12 transactions a year, and they're eventually going to have to just give up and either move it to somewhere else, because when you have 50% of your costs tied into things that add no value to agents, which is the building, which is the advertisement, which is the franchise fees, which is all these things that do zero for agent. One of the things that happened is we had this massive transformation, and you were alluding to it at the end, where you go from brokers were a big part of why real estate was sold to now they don't add any value on the sale of a real estate of a transaction, and they're not even there to help you do it because they can't afford to do it for you anymore. They can't give you enough support to help you sell enough houses, so you're really on your own with any of those spaces. So a lot of them can't continue to compete at that space, and quite honestly, as big as, like KW, I think we can all pick on them. They're the big dinosaur, right? They're the biggest brokerage in the world. They're still the biggest brokerage in the world, as we can tell today. They're a private company. Yeah, nobody knows how many agents they have, but they're probably, 150,000 plus probably still, which makes them still the largest agency in the world. But that model is built on a very expensive platform, and it's franchised and fractured, which means they want to try to pivot and change. They have to get everybody in the franchises to agree in order to make that transition happen, which is likely not going to happen. They're a dinosaur. I mean, it's unfortunate. But the thing that they could offer that cloud-based couldn't, and this is that sticking point, it's not just about going to a company where everybody's just trying to recruit, because I'll tell you, ironically, KW was the biggest recruiting organization in the late 90s and the 2000s. Everyone thought they were recruit. They didn't want to talk to them because all you want to do is recruit. It's ironic that all the KW agents say the same thing about these other brokerages. Like, all y'all want to do is recruit. Well, you guys invented it. You guys came up with a 7-level system and invented the multi-level marketing component to growing your company. And it works. It works. We can like it or not. It works. It expands companies very quickly, because now your agents that firmly believe in the brokerage and want to support it now have a reason, a major incentive to attract other people, and the brokerage doesn't have to spend any money on it. It's an incredible opportunity. So the real dying part, though, as we expand, because we're talking about future problems, is culture and support. Support comes in a lot of different ways, but the culture is another component that these big box places could offer in such a strong way. That balloon, I believe in it till I die. And I've had plenty of agents I've interacted with that still live that model. It's incredible. They never move up to 20, 30 transactions a year. They stay at about 5 to 10. They pay their bills, and they firmly believe in the balloon still today, which is incredible to me. But they have a culture that's really hard to mimic. So how do cloud-based brokerages, you're operating on a platform, you could move space really anywhere, right?
Yep.
Which is the idea. We want to create an opportunity, a platform that fits on another platform, right? Because all these now are not even brokerages. They're really platforms that hold your license.
Yep.
I remember a while back, the CEO of EXP was at a conference, and they said, number one, he said, we all owe a lot to Gary Keller. That's what Glenn Sanford said. He said, we all owe Gary Keller a lot. He made the major change, and EXP made a lot more changes, right? Between going to cloud-based and the rev share and all that. So, but the culture piece is the part that's really hard to implement. So what do you have to say about that?
I would say you can't, if you really want it to be blunt. I don't think cloud-based, I think if they're trying to emulate culture, then they're going to break themselves because they're going away from what their model represented to begin with. Cloud-based system is to be lean, to provide value at a very reduced cost and maximize the revenue and revenue streams of individuals. It's to keep, like, culture isn't branding, culture isn't size, right? So people, like, when we compare it to Remax and the balloon, like, that's marketing. That's not even culture. Like, being a part of the balloon-based, entity, it's like, yeah, consumers know what Remax is. That's great. It's been around for so long that everybody knows what it is, but that's not culture. Culture is so much more than that. And I think that's why so many teams and brokerages fail at culture, because they look at culture as size and productivity and sometimes energy and parties. That's not what it's about. Culture is foundationally a relationship-driven variable, right? So in order to create culture in an agent, right? So for us, we actually value engine and map out our culture process. Like, we actually have a process to generate culture at our company. It's what makes us vastly different than so many other places, especially for team. We're intentional about how we create culture here. And that's really, really key. So when you say, hey, how do cloud-based brokerages fix that piece? And my answer is they don't. Because if they try and fix culture, they're going away from who they are. They've opened up the gap to allow teams like us to be the culture creators within their company. In reality, if you look at any cloud-based brokerage, culture is created from the iconic leaders within their organization creating it. And if you asked any individual agent, what is the culture of your company? They're going to basically say, well, I have all these friends. We do life together. We do business together. We do this together. It's a relationship driver. So how do you create relationships at the ground level of your organization? And a cloud-based model can't do that. They're relying on other people within their model to create the culture that creates what the culture is of the brokerage. Like, it emulates the brokerage, but in reality, it's not the brokerage doing it. It's the people in the office creating that.
I've got a good microcosm to explain that in a sense, right? So a lot of these, the big box places, they would celebrate success, even very minor success. Look, we got the Millionaire Club, right? Millionaire Club, you and I know, I knocked that out in 3 weeks, right? So it's not a number that would mean anything to me, but a lot of agents celebrate that, and that intermediate, that microcosm of celebrating, hey, I see Fathom do it. I hate to pick on other brokerages, but I see them do it in the space in Dallas-Fort Worth. Hey, we have the top 5 agents in Northeast, South Lake, between these streets. And here they are. And then they put them on LinkedIn and celebrate mediocrity from the agent standpoint. But the general population is like, oh, look at you. You rank somewhere. We don't do that in cloud-based businesses, but that's what part of that culture and community is really what we're trying to build. And we'll talk, I know that's probably your big buzzword. And that's where it allows that space that's a vacuum. The agency, the cloud-based company is not doing it, but you as a individual running a team or a group, now we can do it and we can celebrate it our way, right?
Yeah.
That's a big difference. And that's a subtle difference. I don't need the big cloud-based. I'm not paying them enough to do it. I'll do it. Yeah. I'll celebrate.
Yeah. And again, I think it's more than just recognition. Recognition is not culture. I mean, culture is when you feel good about serving another person because you genuinely care about their life, their business, their family. That's the place you have to get to with culture. So at the end of the day, recognition from a brokerage standpoint and some of those awards and some of those pieces we do on a regular basis, that's a sales department mechanism, right? Because that feeds ego, that feeds success, that feeds productivity. Culture is a humbling, egoless box. In reality, what creates culture is me going golfing with some of my staff, agents, team members. What creates culture is that we just did 2 potlucks for our entire real estate team in 2 different offices, and we did our own potlucks per office, and we ate together We did life together. We have Bible studies through our different teams that we have inside operations, and they're self-led by agents on the team. It's not us as an organization. We have a women's small group Bible study that they hold, that they function, that they created to serve each other. That is the culture that gets created with an organization. The real estate team just creates an environment that allows that to be in and thrive, where a cloud-based brokerage can do that in a certain format, but without brick and mortars, without a place to commune and come together, that makes it tough. But in reality, like we have a fantasy football league, multiple fantasy football leagues inside our community, inside our real estate team. That's what creates culture. When you can have a conversation with someone else outside of real estate, culture is created. When you would go and do life with them outside of doing the job, that's how you build long-lasting relationships. That's the environment people want to live in and be in. And that's why they join a team like ours versus a brokerage where, yeah, they might get recognized or they may have trainings or events that pop up or even parties. But who do they know? Like, who do they share their life with? That's the difference in that last cog of culture.
Yeah, it's going from disconnected to connected.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you start building that community, is where we are all just agents that sign in. Now we have connections with others. And it does make a big difference when you involve and interact with everybody outside of real estate. I think it's a fantastic, option. So what role do teams play? I know we kind of touched on a little bit of this, but do you have any other insights and things that's important to consider with teams? Because, right, anybody can join anything and they can just be an independent agent, run on their own show as an entrepreneur. But why are teams a really good function of success for agents or an option?
So we have four major pillars for why our team operates, if you will. Four major key pillars of the value offering that a team provides an agent. It falls into these four buckets. Number one, agent development. It's the continued growth and success of agents, period, right? So when they join us, I want them to continually grow and develop their skills over the life of them being on our team. It's why we have some agents on our actual team paying higher splits than the average in the industry as a whole, because we help them make more money because we make them better agents. And they've been on our team 5+ years. I have an agent, a couple on our team that's been on a real estate team for 7 years in one of the biggest marketplaces. That's really, really tough to get to. Most real estate teams massively turn over, and they only can provide enough value long enough to new agents until the new agents wisen up enough to know that they're being taken advantage of splits. They're not creating long-lasting value. So agent development, training, coaching, accountability, everything that falls into that box for production and growth is one major pillar. The second major pillar that's there is agent support. Agents don't want to do this business alone. They don't want to get sued. They don't want to make mistakes. Alongside agent support becomes social media and marketing support, resources support, like listing signs and lockboxes and cost support, financial support. It also comes to transaction support. We have a massive transaction team on our team that an agent literally hands off a file through a handoff, and we manage the entire file from start to finish, including the after client relationship journey post-close and all the vendor relationships post-close. And that matters. That's a massive amount of support I can give an agent. That's a bunch of hats that an agent normally has to wear that they can take off, put on the shelf, and realize that they have someone actually better at it than them doing it on their behalf. And that's really powerful. So agent support is the second major pillar. The third one, which you're going to hear a lot of people provide, is leads. We have an entire leads department, in the sense that us providing new opportunities that an agent otherwise wouldn't have is a massive cog in that wheel. Like, you have to be able to create business that is beyond what an agent would inherit themselves, right? Yeah. So that's a huge wing of it. I think everybody understands what leads are, but I think it's all scales of leads. It's being able to nurture the already existing client database, like past clients, because those become leads. It's generating new leads. And then it's keeping our database healthy, clean, and operating at a high level from start to finish. So that's the third major pillar. And then the fourth,
and having a large team with scalability makes a big difference on the amount that you can invest and what you can return at a really good value, good price.
Imagine an agent can join a team for no cost, no monthly fee, and they can immediately get signed up on every major product, tool, system, or support item in the industry at the exact same time. No agent could ever do that. If they had to go and do the research to sign up for all the product and tools we have for our leads department, they'd be out thousands of dollars a month. And like, because we're at scale, I can take that, package it up, and give it to an agent as included in the production of the team for no cost. Whereas for them, like on their own, they'd be spending anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000 a month just in static operating costs. No agent can afford that at a scale, right? Like that's where teams come in from the product leads perspective. And then the fourth major pillar of why a team makes sense is the culture piece, like we talked about, right? No one wants to do this business alone. Real estate sucks as it is. It's already a roller coaster that's on fire. And if you have to do that part of your life alone every day with no support, like no community, makes it really, really tough. Like no one wants to do that. So they look, and a lot of times people seek a career in real estate, not even to make more money, but they seek a career in real estate to create community around an environment that is attractive to them. So they look for a community in that phase of their life, and they want to enjoy it. A lot of our agents are either single or divorced or maybe on that next phase of their life, and they're looking for people to do life with and a reset and a restart. And real estate is very common for that in our industry as a whole. Like we know that that's a very common thing. And we want to create that type of environment at a team so where they can make friends. Like as crazy as that sounds, I would probably say 1 out of 3 agents that join the company are strict. Like they could care less about how much money they made. They just want friends. Like as crazy as that sounds, they want friends.
Well, we're going to dive into that because that's something else you and I talked offline. I think there's a really cool kind of things that people don't think about, right? They just don't see, they don't recognize. Before I get to that, I wrote it down, so I'll come back to it. You know, it's a strange movement, right? So you have the big box brokerage and they would take, 30, 40, 50% pretty commonly in order for you to take on their brand or join their teams and things like that. And then we move to this large, fast growing flat fee option where I know just enough. Now I'll go flat fee, or I have people brand new that go into a flat fee arrangement and they're never going to win. They're not built entrepreneurs. They're not going to go out there and dive and generate all their own business. And they get in and they fail, right? There's going to be this calling where people are going to be going from that $400 or $500 transaction fee, and they're going to be going back to 40, 50% splits. Because if you're not selling real estate, you can't grow a business. I don't care if you have to give up a big chunk of your commission. Do it for a period. And I think the way you kind of described space is there is a place for that agent that gets full support at the cost of a higher split or lesser split. And there is a growth opportunity. Hey, you're doing so well. You're operating 80% on your own. Let's move you into a different split arrangement or even a flat fee arrangement, but get all the support still. I think there's probably a good sliding scale component that I think you're off. Is that the case, kind of the way you operate? So you bring in someone new, we're gonna take a little bit more, but we're gonna give you everything you need to be successful.
Yeah, and what's cool about it is we're pretty good balance between brand new and experience in that mid stop. At the end of the day, this is what I would look at. Would you make more money on this team than you would individually? I don't care what level of your career is. You could be a 15-year bristled vet, right? Just killing it out there. But if you're spending, what's tough about real estate is technically if you're in the real estate industry, you run a business. You're a business owner, period. You're a CEO, you're a business owner, but yet you've never ran a business before. Most of the time, they don't even know what running a business is. Most real estate agents don't even have their own P&L. How bad is that, right? You run a company with no P&L. And if you asked probably your average real estate agent today, hey, do you have a QuickBooks account or do you have an accountant running your bookkeeping or your finances for your business? Because that's what it is. They would be like, no, I get my check, I get my W-9 at the end of the year, and I hire, TurboTax and we let it roll. That's how terrible our fragmented industry is, right? So the whole point is if these agents looked at their balance sheet and actually looked, how much money did you spend? How much money did you make? Revenue minus expense, what was your net profit this year? What did you actually take home this year? At the end of the day, with all the tools and marketing costs and listing signs and all of the client gifts, everything, what did you actually make this year from your business? And I think that's the aha moment for them. And so when we compare our team, it's like, yes, you're paying a split, but if you make 60% more net income to you and you do half the amount of work because you're not going to do all these extra jobs that you've been doing. Like you don't have to do any of it anymore. You just get to focus on showing houses and building relationships with your clients. That's it. We take care of everything else. So if you do that and you make 60% more income at the end of the year, and you had a hell of a lot more fun doing it because you actually have a culture now and you have a community around what you're doing, that's why people stick. Like that's the difference. It's irrelevant. At the end of the day, splits are irrelevant. I use this example all the time. If I took 90% and I only gave you 10%, but you made twice as much or twice the money next year than you did this year, would you do it? Like most agents, it's weird. Most agents sit there and they're like, well, why do you got to take 90? I was like, it doesn't matter. You just already answered my question. It doesn't matter. If I took 90% and only gave you 10%, you had more fun and you made twice the money. Why wouldn't that be a hell yes? It'd be an absolute yes. Like this is what I want to do. And I think that's the difference in mindset. Everybody so much focuses on what someone's taking from me instead of what am I getting at the end of the, like it's, if I signed you for a salaried position at this dollar amount, you'd be like, yeah, sign me up. Like, I want that money. That'd be great, which is what it is. But everybody's so focused on what is being taken instead of the opportunity created and the value given.
I want to talk a little bit about there's one component that we're not really reaching into so that's great short term. It does make sense short term, but where the compounding effect is long term, and that's where it really makes an enormous difference. I'll give you an easy example. I had an agent that joined a flat fee agency. They sold about 5 or 6 houses that year. And then they came over because they weren't selling enough because there's no support. There's no leads. There's no opportunities. Yeah, they save a bunch of money each transaction, but they're not actually selling any real estate. They came and joined me, and immediately their first year with me, they sold double. They did 10 transactions and they had to pay a split. So their net on each deal was a little less, but they closed a lot more transactions. And I think what really matters long-term is you need to close transactions because transactions turns into the most powerful tool you have, which is your sphere of influence. Once you've closed and funded, and now you've created a relationship, now they can become one of your sphere of influence, which is going to be people who like, trust, and respect you. And when you build that up, you grow so fast in the 3rd year, the 4th year, the 5th year. But if you only close 5 deals a year, it's going to take you 10 years to get to the same place you would have been in 3 or 4 years. So coming back to your model, if you're working on your own, you're only going to close 5, 6 deals on your own, right? But you come and work in a model that has a machine that's a lot more transaction based, and you focus on what you should be paid to do, not all the other miscellaneous things, the things that pay you the least amount of money per hour. And you focus on those things and you close 12, 14, 15 deals, you're going to hit that threshold by year 3 or 4 where you can be 100% on your own on sphere of influence and still be a part of the culture and still have some type of arrangement that keeps everybody glued together and everybody wins. So I really focus on, you need to get transaction count, and it's worth giving up some of your split to get that transaction count up because that's what's going to be your future. So that's the only caveat I would add, is that the transaction count makes a big difference in expanding your future. It may not be today. Maybe your net's the same. Even if your net's the same, Keith, it's better to sell 10 houses at the same net than 5 houses. It's better because now you have twice as many people to build your sphere of influence going forward. So that was the one thing I wanted to emphasize. Last thing, if I asked you a percentage of agents in the US that make less than 150,000, or you can say it the other way, that make more than 150,000 a year in GCI, what would you think the percentage would be?
0.01%.
So what Keith just said is that less than 0.01% make more than 150,000 a year. That means that over 99% are making less than 150,000. He and I talked about this. I thought it was closer to 95%, but I had no idea. He's in a space I'm not in. I don't evaluate other brokerages. I don't see success. I don't see what other people are doing. I mean, if you think about that, like, that's unbelievable. Everyone thinks real estate agents are rich and they make all this money. But the percentage of successful agents that even make a good, if you're not making 300,000 to 400,000 a year, you can't effectively manage your home. I mean, you got to make quite a bit. And that's such a small percentage of people that even come close to that. You know, I know for me, I've got 4 kids. I've been married for 20 years come in April. And if I'm not 400,000 plus, we're broke. Like, I can't even imagine how the majority of real estate agents, they all have spouses that have to work because they ain't making enough.
And I think to add on to that, again, it's a component of what you just said. It's how many agents made over 150,000. It's not revenue, because they're lying to themselves if that's what they're basing that off of. I'm not basing off a revenue number. Your GCI can be over 150,000,
Sure.
right? That's not too difficult. But now you got to pay your brokerage.
Yeah.
You got your baseline costs. You got your signage. You got your marketing costs, your lead generation costs, your tools, your product, your systems, your office space, your accountant, your taxes. Like, the whole point is, if you looked at the number, like, there might be 5% that have a revenue number above that mark. The problem is, at the end of the day, no one knows how to manage or operate their business, and their true net number is not above that mark. They think it is, because in their mind, all they see is what's coming in at the top line, but they don't know how to manage a business, and at the bottom line is not that. And I think that's the big difference, is no one really looks at their company like it's a business.
It's true. I remember when I had my own brokerage, I actually did a class for my agents teaching them about how to run your company as a business from the IRS perspective. Like, what can we claim in taxes? What's our income? What can we expense? Do we lease cars? Do we buy cars? Do we buy a truck and get the full expense? I went through all these different components, and it's eye-opening how many have no idea, or even how to set our company up. Should we be an S Corp? Should we be an LLC? And I do a class couple times a year talking about that type of information, because agents aren't getting, no brokers teaching their agents this information. I mean, they're not. And I think it's a valuable place. They could probably gain $10,000 or $20,000 if they just focused and took care of this part of it.
Yep.
These are just side things I think about. So what's the best way to connect with you? On social media? Is that the best way?
Yeah, social media is great. Anybody can send me an email at keith@spacere.com. So I'm wide open. I'm at a place where we're growing and expanding, and I love the community and connect with people. Social media is great too, as another resource to be able to reach out to me. LinkedIn, other pieces like that is very often.
So you've got a specific, your focus right now is expansion.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got the model, you've got the platform. Now you're looking to expand in other areas. And I know you've mentioned kind of off and on, Space is looking for agents. So what's your message to top teams or individuals that are looking to grow or launch a team?
If you're a team leader and you want to run the number one metro team in your given marketplace, then you should be looking at a partnership with someone that knows how to do that and get there, right? Because it took us 8 years to build that. But now we have an oiled, documented machine of how to do that in every metro. It's plug and play. It's team in a box at this point. And we do it on your behalf. We just need great leaders and boots on ground to help finalize that piece. So it would be something that I would highly recommend anybody looks at that and just sees it. We're profit sharing partners in what we do and how we grow and scale. So there's a huge opportunity for team leaders in that sense. And they can be the number one metro team leader in their marketplace. And that's what we're going after for every metro. As an individual agent looking for a team, I guarantee you no other team in our entire industry nationally provides as much value, both financially and intrinsic value, into your company and your business of selling real estate than we do. We've made that a mission of ours to basically create the best agent experience and to create the best agents, period, over any other company in the country. And so we're excited about what that's going to be. And as we launch in other marketplaces, that same value proposition is going to be available for agents in those markets.
Okay. This is going to get posted on all the podcast channels, Spotify, Google, Apple, and including YouTube. And it will be on social media as well. So you're going to be able to share and expand and grow with that and be able to reach, additional agents and opportunities. Any last minute things that you want to share, Keith?
No, I'm just excited to continue to build and grow, especially in Texas, and continue that marketplace expansion, and just here to help support and grow.
I love it. And I love touching on a lot of these topics that nobody's talking about. I think it's fantastic. The switch from the big box to the cloud base and some of the challenges we're going to run into, and what are we going to do to address those challenges? I feel like a lot of people are really not focused in those spaces. And I think that's a big value add that you're offering. I think that's fantastic. Well, I appreciate it. This is just another podcast with Keith Anderson with Space, co-founder and CEO. He gave you his information on how to contact him and connect with him. And I appreciate all of your time. Thank you so much, and have a high performance week. Thank you. That wraps up another episode of Real Estate Success DFW. I hope you're leaving with new insights that push your real estate career forward. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with fellow agents who's ready to succeed. And if you're interested in working together or have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me directly. My personal phone is 214-228-0383. Let's connect and make real estate success happen together. Until next time, keep pushing forward. I'm Shaune Corbett, and this is the Real Estate Success DFW. Have a high performance week.